Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Barmy Army Meets. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Millard from the Barmy Army. As many of you will be familiar with now, Barmy Army Meets is in partnership with Opening Up. Opening Up promotes mental well-being and suicide prevention through cricket. They deliver sessions with clubs and offer resources online with a focus on positive mental health. Since 2014, they've been saying it's not weak to speak to encourage conversation on what is such an important topic. Be sure to check them out on social media or at openingup.com. A huge thank you once again to all of our Barmy Army members that are key workers. You're keeping the country running, and I want to thank you from the bottom. If you haven't managed to catch up with our latest episode of Barmy Meets, then be sure to check them out. So far, we've had Mark Wood, Sam Curran, Liam Plunkett, Joe Denley, Chris Wokes, Don Bess, and Ryan Sidebottom. But without further ado, I'd like to give a warm Barmy welcome to England legend and now Managing Director of Cricket, and still to many, the King of Spain, Ashley Giles.
Good evening. Thank you.
How are you, Ash? Are you all right, coping in isolation okay at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredibly busy. I'm sure everyone is, and everyone has their own worries. First, I hope everyone's okay and well, and their families are well. It's obviously a worrying time for many, but I spend most of my time doing this at the moment, looking into computer screens about 6 hours a day. There's obviously a lot to do and a lot to think about in the game currently and looking forwards, but trying to remain really positive as well about this year, about getting some cricket on and how exciting that would be for everyone.
Brilliant. I was going to ask you, the first question I've got for you is, what a crazy roller coaster ride you've had since becoming MD of cricket for ECB. You've had the highs of a World Cup win, an amazing Ashes series, and now dealing with this. How's that been?
Yeah, no one told me it was going to be like this. First year of World Cup, Ashes, new coach, South Africa, the way that started with a loss and a lot of illness in the camp, and then Sri Lanka, when even the start of this whole thing, how that escalated in a couple of days from us just starting to talk about whether we should think about bringing our team home to bringing them home. And then a week later almost, or just over, we're in lockdown. So it accelerated, the whole thing accelerated really quickly. But yeah, a bit of a roller. I wouldn't change it for anything. I love it, but it's busy.
Great, sir. Now, I'm sure you're very busy at the minute, but tonight we're going to keep things on track with Ash's career and also what he's doing now. So get your questions in. I will aim to ask as many as I can. We've already had some submitted. First off, though, I'll be honest, I didn't really understand the King of Spain nickname for a couple of years. Last year, I found out what it was about. It's an excellent story. Can you just tell everyone how that nickname came about?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I mean, a lot of people think it was my benefit year, which was 2006, and that I had mugs done for my benefit year and whatever. But it wasn't. It was back in about 2002-03, and the club shop at Edgbaston. I'd been playing for England for a couple of years. They decided to do some mugs, a mug range of me in the shop, and so they sent away for a couple of samples, and the printers obviously weren't cricket fans or Ashley Giles fans, one or the other, because they're supposed to come back to King of Spin, and they came back to King of Spain. So we thought, and it was honestly up front, it was a couple of mugs. I kept one for myself in the dressing room to have my coffee, and that disappeared. I don't know where that's gone, whether someone broke it or nicked it. And the second one was in the club shop. Where that is right now, I'm not sure, but they were the two originals. We then might have printed a few more after, once it actually kicked off, because Nick Owen, I don't know whether many of you remember Nick Owen, who was, of Breakfast TV fame when I was little with Anne Diamond. The Central News has done it for years, and he got hold of it, got it on the TV, and then it started to spread. But it's great because it's the one thing still. I've been retired since 2007. I've been a coach, director of cricket, manager, sport director, selector, etc. But it's the one thing still, when I'm in a supermarket, I walk past someone, if they've clocked me, or outside a pub or something, and I get about 5 yards away, and just get the King of Spain. I get as I'm walking away. So
excellent.
It's great. It's all good fun, and obviously, at the same time, it's a really enjoyable part of my career.
Absolutely, very true. We need to track down that mug. If anyone knows where it is, any Barmy Army members, that needs to be in a museum somewhere, I reckon.
Oh.
Right, so straight to the questions of the members. We've had one submitted. The first one is: can you talk us through that Brian Lara delivery, and is it your favourite?
I'd love to. No, I want more questions. Yeah, it was because it's funny you're talking about mental welfare and well-being and stuff, and that year previous to that, I really struggled in my career. I really struggled with the confidence, and at one point looked like I may walk away from international cricket. And the New Zealand series just before that West Indies series started to turn it around. Steve Bull, who's a psychologist with England, did some great work with me. And I did all right at the end of that New Zealand series, and then that first test at Lords, and Lara was my 100th test wicket. It shows what confidence can do. It just sort of turned my summer around, and I got him out first innings, which actually he might not have nicked behind, but got given out. But second innings, it was one of those where everything, the sequence just happens perfectly. I was bowling well, but it hit the rough, spun as he came down the pitch, went through the gap, he pushed it and knocked his middle stump out, and that's my 100th test wicket. So it was a really great memory. I've played with Brian at Warwickshire.
Of course, yeah.
For me, not just because I got him out that day, but I think he's the best batsman who's played the game, best batsman I've seen. Just extraordinary, some of the stuff he could do, but very fond memories. And if it hadn't been for that period and coming out of that dark time, if you like, I wouldn't have got to 2005 either. So
not a bad one to have in your back pocket then?
He was all right. So I suffered a lot of pain at a lot of batsmen's hands, but I only bowled at Brian 4 times. I got him out 3 times. That didn't happen with everyone.
Very good. Hey, it's happened with the best. Now, I think it's that same test match. Another question regarding the Mind the Windows Tino incident. Did you hear that before Fred said it and then you ran into bowl, or was it after when you learnt about how spectacular that bit of sledging was?
I can't remember exactly. I knew something was going on.
Yeah.
I knew Fred was taking the mickey around the bat, and there was a bit of noise, and Tino attracted that sort of attention.
Yeah.
He sort of made a rod for his own back, because when you were batting, he gave you plenty. But so he was an easy target. And he fell for it hook, line and sinker. It was a fun moment, and typical Fred actually. In that era, just silly Fred.
Absolutely. Now the next question has come on the live stream. It's a question about isolation. Have you played many quizzes while you've been in lockdown, and are you any good at the sports questions?
Have played a lot of quizzes. So we've got a group of friends that originally we met through the kids' schooling, if you like, but about 10 of us who are really close now. And my family, so my 2 sisters and my brother, who I hardly ever see, but I've seen them more in the last few weeks than previous months, just from being on Zoom every week playing quizzes. We do one with our exec team at the ECB as well. So there's a bit going on. I'm good at quizzes, and by that I mean I'm good at putting them on. I'm not very good actually at answering the questions. So I generally rely on my son and my daughter. My son's at uni now, and he's thankfully brighter than me. And my daughter's 18, so I make sure they're around. I keep them out of picture, but they give me the answers. But it's good fun. I mean, there's been some weird things out of this, hasn't there? The whole lockdown. For me, spending time with my family. I spend a lot of time on the road. Have done my whole career. Right now, before this, spend a lot of time on the train going to London and back, and actually having the 4 of us in one place where we have meal times together. We have a laugh. It's actually really enjoyable.
Fantastic. No, it's a lot of cricketers have said the same thing, and they share that they spend a lifetime on tour, so to have a little bit of time with the family is great. I'm not sure wives agree with them or not, but I'll leave that to interpretation. Now, there's a lot of Bears fans that watch our Barmy Army Meet show, and we've already been inundated with Warwickshire questions, as you can imagine. So, the first one from Paul on the live stream is asked, can you name your top 3 Bears of all time?
What Bears I've played with?
Yeah, let's go with that you've played with.
So, Alan Donald, definitely.
Yeah.
I love playing with Alan, and Alan's a legend anyway. I mean, he's sort of bloke who bowl 100 mile an hour during the day and drink 10 pints at night, and get up and do the same again next day. Great man, fantastic servant of the game. And we don't really get overseas players like that anymore. You're very lucky to. Who else would there be? Well, Brian talked about as a for what he did that year, was just remarkable. And I've got to say, my old mate Dougie Brown, who when I moved to Warwickshire as a 19-year-old from Surrey, I lived with Dougie for the first 2 or 3 years. We always roomed together. We always travelled together, and he sort of took me under his wing.
Brilliant.
Good man, Doug, solid. But there's so many there. So many guys who, through that era, Dermot Reed was a great captain. Tim Munton, Bob Warmer was one of the best coaches I ever worked with, probably alongside Duncan Fletcher. Up until the modern era, when you actually talked about overseas players, someone like Judy Patel, who what he's done in the last decade. Was a brilliant signing. He's been a legend. So, really great memories.
Some real good players in there. Now, Tim Munton has actually submitted a question. Most people who know Tim will know he's got connections to the Barmy Army, deep-rooted. But he's asked you to tell us about 2 people you mentioned there, about your days in the Varsity Tavern with Alan Donald and Dougie Brown.
Yeah, well, thankfully, it's a long time ago, and my wife's not around. We had some great time. Varsity Tavern, but also a place called the White Swan we used to frequent quite a lot. It's very different now. It's sort of a gastro pub near Harborne, but back then it was
Nice.
A bit more spit and sawdust. We used to sit out on the wall most nights and have a few pints, and we used to have this saying that it's when I was a very young player, before I played for England, but go and have 1,000 and play cricket the next day, go and have 10 pints and go and play cricket, which is horrible now. And I hope this doesn't go out to any of our cricketers, because it's the game's much more professional now. Standards are higher, but they were good fun years, and we had a good laugh, definitely.
Absolutely, what a great answer that is. Now, moving on briefly from the Warwickshire stuff, Adam's asked on the live stream, what's the best atmosphere that you've ever played in, including or excluding the Ashes games?
Couple, really. So, I mean, that 05 Ashes, Trent Bridge, the end there, but the Oval, batting with Kevin on that last day for about 3 hours, and then I remember getting out, and I think when you're in those moments, you're so focused on what's in front of you, so you take in very little of what's around. But once I was out, I started walking off, and then I sort of looked up, and this crowd, and then outside the ground, there's people on roofs, people hanging out of windows. Mm-hmm. It was just extraordinary, and I remember almost slowing down to just sort of enjoy the moment just a little bit, because it was that incredible. But I always see that I've been really fortunate and lucky that I've played at, in some of the best countries or the best grounds, Sydney, Newlands, played at Calcutta, Eden Gardens in the old one, which was just amazing. Played in Mumbai when I remember being sort of 3 yards away from NASA, or 2 yards away from NASA, and you couldn't hear each other because of the crowd noise, because Sachin was going mad and Sehwag. So incredible memories, from starting off as a kid on the village green, as I did, who only ever dreamed of playing cricket for England. I'm pretty happy in my lot there. Yeah,
No,
great.
absolutely. Now, Barmy Army, staying on the atmosphere topic, I know I'm right in thinking that at your benefit day you had a Barmy choir there. What was it like to play in front of the Barmy Army and to have hear your song for the first time?
Look, I don't think you can underestimate the strength the Barmy Army gives England team and England players. You know, I think the support is unwavering. You know, whether you win, lose or draw, and often when we went abroad, particularly Australia, we lost, but must have been incredibly frustrating for everyone at times, but rarely was it shown. And just the sheer expense that it cost people to go on these trips, sometimes for whole winters, and the work that goes into doing that beforehand. So,
yeah.
You know, working your backsides off to pay for those trips, to come and watch us play cricket, it's brilliant. I don't think thank you could ever be enough from anyone who's played for England and had that support from the Barmy Army. And then, to hear the King of Spain song personally, and actually perhaps shouldn't have it in the downstairs loo, but it's where my wife makes me keep most of my pictures. Like, there's a picture of me and the Queen in there as well, but there's the one at Trafalgar Square the day after he won the Ashes, and in front of the column is the Spanish flag with GILES is our king, and I love that. It's just I always used to look out for it in the ground, but yeah, really fond memory.
Brilliant. We know the people responsible for that flag at Barmy Army members, and hopefully they're listening to this. Now, moving slightly on to the current England team, and Jack Francis has asked, do you think the current England squad is capable of winning Down Under next winter?
Yes, and I think we have to. I mean, that's sort of, we've talked a lot about it. Joe and I and Chris Silver, we've talked a lot about planning to win there. You know, and that's no disrespect to anything in between, but I think in our job it's really important to have goals.
Yeah.
That sort of is for us the holy grail in Test cricket, to go to Australia and win. I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
I think we were disappointed last year that we had windows of opportunity and didn't take them. First Test, a great example. They're 120 odd for 8 in the first innings, and yet, you know, some of the stuff we saw from our team just makes you incredibly proud. You know, Stokes' moment at Headingley was just, again, boys' own stuff, just brilliant. But even the way we fought at Old Trafford, and then to go 2-1 down, it would have been easy to roll over to a degree at the Oval, but we played bloody good cricket there. And that's great credit to Joe. You know, I think he's really developing as a leader. You know, I guess this period has sort of set everyone back. You know, we probably thought less about planning, if I'm honest, in this period, and more about survival. I don't mean us, but you know, the game financially is at some risk. So you know, a lot of our planning at the moment is around how to mitigate that risk, how to get cricket on, how to get it on safely, and then think about what's down the line. But you know, it's amazing how it's changed the world in the space of 8 or 9 weeks, really.
No, it's crazy. We couldn't agree with you more on that. That the holy grail for England fans is certainly the away Ashes, and I know a lot of people are looking ahead to that as potentially the next trip. But Simon Edmund has asked a question on that. What do you think? Do you think the future tours program will be altered? Will be affected by what's gone on? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you say it.
Yeah, very likely. Without going too much detail, because we don't know any actually, but I think the important thing that will come out of this is, at the moment, and I might have said this elsewhere, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but we're all, as I said a minute ago, very focused on what's going on in our own little parts of the world, because, you know, for us, revenues, etc., getting games on right here, right now, this summer is really important, but everyone else is feeling that pain. Australia are thinking about that. India are thinking about that. West Indies will be South Africa. Everyone. Yeah. So, you know, if that demonstrates anything in this period coming up, we've got to work together with each other for the whole game and that is going to be crucial. It could mean the bumping of fixtures down the line a little bit, but those conversations, to be honest, generally I had at chief exec level. I obviously communicate a lot with Tom on that, but it has a danger of getting quite messy in this next couple of years. But from no cricket could put a lot of pressure on our players over the next 12 months or so on trying to play catch up on some of these series. So we're going to have to look after them as well.
Yep, absolutely. Great answer. Now, to change up the question a little bit, Matthew Jones has asked, did you find your time managing Lancashire? Did you enjoy it, and how did you find the 2015 season?
Yeah, I loved it. I was just on the call actually before you, and we were talking about Manchester, and I said, well, it's the second home of cricket, isn't it, after Edgbaston? Because they're the two clubs where I've worked as a coach, and so I have the strongest allegiance. I was looked after incredibly well at Lancashire. Loved it. It's amazing that almost the regional differences as well between clubs, where just almost location and the people are different, and cricket means a different thing up there, northwest, and whether it be at Old Trafford or at Headingley, it's more than a game. There's a religious aspect to it almost, but going there in 15, getting promoted, but winning T20, which I've been fortunate. With Warwickshire, I'd won the Lord's final. We'd won the championship, and I was desperate to get a T20 title under our belts, and fantastic season. James Faulkner was an absolute star for us, but everyone was. Really strong squad, really enjoyable time, and it's a great club. I mean, I think everyone's struggling at the moment, but the whole infrastructure there with the conferencing stuff and the hotel and that is from where they were. It's a really brilliant stadium and club. Yeah,
we saw the accounts were announced this week, and it shows really good reading for anyone who's interested in the club. But seems like you've got the golden touch, Gilo. You keep winning trophies wherever you travel, so let's hope the same for the Down Under Ashes.
I hope so. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Now, Toby Brealey, forgive me if you don't understand what he's saying here, but he's assured me you will. He says, Can you stand on one leg?
Can I stand on one leg?
He's a Barmy Army member that asks everyone if he can stand on one leg. I think he was quite a superstitious cricketer. Were you very superstitious when you played?
I can just about stand on one. I'm having a rum and coke. This is for the Barmy Army, the rum and coke tonight. I'm having a night off. Yeah, my balance isn't great anymore. I'm probably twice the man I used to be when I was playing for England. So keeping my backside up's a bit tougher nowadays.
Very good. Moving on from that, we're going to ask you a quick question from Lisa regarding the bookcase behind you. Do you enjoy reading? If so, what type of books are on there?
Well, it's a bit of a show, really, because I do occasionally enjoy reading, but generally when we go on holidays or breaks, I find very little time to do it otherwise. One of my weaknesses is I struggle to switch off. So in work mode, I find it very difficult to pick a book up in the evening or find time to pick a book up. My way of relaxing, actually, probably trying to find time occasionally just to watch a film. I'm a bit weird that, even my wife understands occasionally I need to disappear in a room on my own and just have a couple of hours, recharge the batteries, watch a film, and then I can come back. But if I am to read books, they're generally either sort of sports autobiographies or business books, books around building teams, culture, those sort of books. And there's a real mix, I think, on from Duncan Fletcher to Richard Branson to England, the biography by Simon Wilde, which I haven't read yet actually, so I should. But the whole history of England cricket. But
we need to get a Barmy Army book on there.
Sorry,
we need to get a Barmy Army songbook on there.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I need mine. I've been working on mine for years, but never found time to finish it off. So I don't know whether anyone would be interested. You guys can give me an idea, but
Very good.
I've thought of the title, King of Spain and I thought would be quite a decent starting point.
Not a bad place to start. Now, opening up cricket, who are our partners for these show, they're a mental health charity within cricket. They've asked a couple of questions. So one of the questions they've asked, which relates to what you were just saying, how hard was the transition from player to a more technical managerial role within the game? And how have you found the relationship with former teammates who are essentially now reporting on you and things like that?
Yeah, so it's good. That's a really good question. I think I found it easier at the time because I officially retired August 2007, but I had a couple of years injury building into that.
Yeah.
I came back for that Ashes, which probably wasn't quite right. Then went home because my wife was ill, and so I sort of had time to get used to the idea of maybe not playing cricket anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did it, and I also went straight into literally a month and a half later, I think, into the director of cricket job at Warwickshire. So didn't really have a lot of time to think about it. I'd never set my goal at doing that in the first place, but went into that job. And certainly, I think players there at Warwickshire who I'd played with tested me a little bit. There was a little bit of, well, we'd be all right now, GILES, our old mates, the boss, and there was none of that because, one thing I've never been afraid of is making tough decisions, and actually the importance of legacy and history. So whatever job I'm in, whether it had been, Warwickshire was much closer to me because I played all my career there, but even going to Lancashire and understanding the history there and the people who played for that club and poured, blood, sweat and tears into that club, that means something to me. So when I pick something up like that, I want to take it on and I want to leave it in a better place than I found it. And given the responsibility with England, it's exactly the same thing. So that's what drives me, and I won't. It's not that I'm some sort of dictator, but I expect everyone to come with me and have the same standards. That we're in this to be the best, to be to carry that legacy forward. But on the issue of transition, I think it's one of the toughest areas we deal with. It is particularly players coming out of the England environment and either going back to county cricket or going out of the game, because you go from being revered and playing in front of crowds of tens of thousands, earning a lot of money, your profile's really high, and that can almost drop off a cliff overnight, and it's a really, really tough thing to deal with, and we've got our eyes on it. Doesn't make it particularly any easier, but we are aware of it, and we're trying to keep an eye on it. And anyone who comes out of that, you say it doesn't matter how much money you earn. It's when you've done this sort of thing, as anyone who's been in a job for a long time, it becomes your life, and your identity as much as anything. So it's a real tough one.
Yeah, I know the feeling there, Jarlo. Now, another question from opening up. How do you look after your mental health? I know you've touched on it earlier, but if you can go into any detail about how you manage your mental health.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really interesting period because we've been so busy. I remember thinking Monday, and I said to my wife, finished Monday, and I was on my knees, and you think, this is the start of the week.
Yeah.
We're working overtime at the moment to both sort of mitigate risk in the future, but also get the show on the road this year, and we're all doing the same. And I know for me, I talked a bit about earlier, it's making sure I have certain time for myself, which isn't a lot, but making sure I get my breaks, making sure I get my rest, making sure if I can get some training in, or even if it's taking the dog out for a walk for an hour, something that just allows me to take a break away. I think from a wider angle, because I probably did, and maybe rightly in some senses, I got quite a lot of stick through periods of my career, and I found it really tough. and the world on that front probably got tougher with social media and everything. It's easy to pick things up and read them, and you can have 101 positive things, and you look past them, you see the one negative, and it can stay with you for a long time. Now, I think I deal with that much better now than perhaps I used to, and I think I've developed the use of the block quite nicely on Twitter. It's quite a handy little button. But it's a concern, and I did struggle with that stuff at times during my career. But more than anything, the bit I talked about with working with Steve Bull was just listening less to what everyone else is saying and worrying about what's important. So for me, what was important is, well, what I'm doing for the team, how I train, how I help my mates, what my coach thinks of me, not people writing in the papers or supporters necessarily, and with all due respect to supporters, because the view's important, but you know what I mean? It's about keeping focus on things you can control. I think that's when we all drift, is when we let too much in, and your mind just becomes overloaded with rubbish, and you can only deal with so much. She won't mind me saying, she put it on Instagram last week, my daughter deals with a lot of anxiety, and I see it in her that she gets, you almost get overloaded with stuff in your head, and you can't sieve it out. And that's what it's like playing cricket sometimes, when it looks a very glamorous career, being on the road, staying in nice hotels, playing for England. But when it's not good, it's ugly, as you probably have heard from other people. It's a hard place to be.
Very good answer. That. Thank you for that answer. Now, Paul has asked on the live stream, slightly changing subject. Where was your favourite place to tour and why? Good Barmy Army question, that, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah, varied really. I never enjoyed it. Well, not weirdly, probably because we used to lose. But Australia was tough.
There's nothing weird about that.
But strangely on that, before I come to my answer, when I went back as one-day coach, and I was out before Christmas with the performance squad, basically the Lions, our A team, and then my wife and kids came over for 3 weeks over Christmas. And while I was with the performance squad, I saw much more of Brisbane and much more of Perth than I'd ever seen when I was touring. And then we had 3 weeks in Melbourne, and we just had the most brilliant time. I love the country. And I think, again, it shows that pressure you get when you're in the cauldron. You take that away and you actually open your eyes and look around you. You think, it's a bloody nice country, this, and nice people. While I was touring, I think New Zealand was my favourite.
Yeah.
Very relaxed, great people, real competitors on the field. Nice food, nice wine, nice place. Very beautiful in places. I loved going there again before Christmas. South Africa I also enjoyed, but mainly the Cape. I spent 4 winters playing there when I was a young cricketer. I spent between 19 and 23 playing in Cape Town. So that was nice. Then going back, I'd been to Newlands as a young lad, trying to make my way in the game, watching a Test match where England played, and then to go back there and play. And we won that series in 2004-05. It was great. So, but they're all great. I'm not necessarily. I mean, the West Indies, some people love. I'm just not a beach person. It's not really me. The island life.
Even with a rum and coke in hand.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I've got that wrong a bit there, haven't I? But I'm a bit more. I suppose I love seeing bigger things, new things, and being busy. So culturally, I like to get around when I'm in places and see what's going on.
Fantastic answer. Now, Andy Thompson has asked, Barmy Army tour manager has said, Your Majesty, did it ever bother you being referred to as the wheelie bin? And if it did, how did you deal with it?
It did a bit at the time. It's a bit silly now. We laugh at it, and some of my mates still call me that occasionally.
Good mates.
But I think it just depends where you are in that cycle of where you are mentally. And I think when that first landed, I wasn't in a great place, and therefore you just think, it's just another kick that you don't need. Sure, all these things are always meant with best intentions, but it's how you take them. So again, there would have been a lot probably worse said about me later on when I was doing better and feeling better, and it would have been water off a duck's back. So at the time, not great, but again, it's all in good humour, and Blowers is a legend of a man, so no problem there.
There we go. He was calling side bottom all sorts. He was telling us last week about his long hair, so that stuck with him. So there we are. Now, a great question that's submitted. You might need to think about this a little bit, but someone has asked you, if you could change one rule about cricket when it returns, what would it be and why? It's tough. It's a real toughie, that.
Yeah, it's tough. I'll tell you what I would think about doing. This is probably more a regulation than a rule, but remember Bob Woolmer back in '99, the World Cup, gave Hansi Cronje an earpiece.
Yeah.
And they communicated and it got stopped. I think that would be quite a good spectacle nowadays for
the show.
As you see in Formula One, you don't have to do it live, but almost a Capcom from captain to coach, just to see what some of those conversations are after the fact. I think that would be good TV and maybe something that you could use in something like the 100 or
Fabulous.
T20 cricket. But I think just adding to that viewer experience would be interesting.
Great answer. Really good answer. Now, we've had another question on the live stream from Ned. He's asked, can you name your 5 favourite grounds that you've played at?
5 favourite grounds?
Old Trafford and Edgbaston. That's tick, I guess.
Where'd you say? Old Trafford?
Old Trafford and Edgbaston.
No, actually not to play at Old Trafford. No, I didn't enjoy playing there. I loved being there when I went back as a coach, but I remember test debut there, but didn't really have a lot of success there. Edgbaston, absolutely.
Of course.
Lords has to be because it's home of cricket.
Absolutely.
Well, second home of cricket, third home of cricket, whatever you want to say. I'm not sure about the Oval yet. I'll come back to the Oval because I'm a Surrey boy, and so many landmarks happened for me at the Oval. And so, on the same match actually, I played my 50th Test match, and we won the Ashes in 2005.
Yeah, of course.
Having been told by Surrey that I wasn't wanted when I was 18, 19, which was fine. There's no hard feelings there. But to go back and have that moment there was great.
Fantastic.
Let me think. Sydney, I never played a Test match at, but played a one-day game. I think Newlands, as the views and the setting, it's just romantic and brilliant. Where else is there? So I've done 4. I would say playing at Eden Gardens was an experience and a half.
Yeah.
In front of whatever it was, 100,000 odd people in that old stadium that was tiered right back.
Fantastic.
Just incredible. Yeah. There'll be more. I'll swap one out. I'll swap the Oval out for now because they let me go, and I'll say Barbados.
Oh, great! What a place! What a place! Now, somewhere you didn't mention, but we've had a question about it from an unnamed source. Can you talk us through your batting against Shane Warne at Trent Bridge?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. That everyone talks about Trent Bridge, and it's great. I got 7 not out, I think. Hit the winning runs, which was brilliant. But got 59 at the Oval.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, a week later, which was a much more important innings in many ways. But yeah, so it's weird. I talked about this yesterday with some kids actually on a sort of cricket coaching thing, and before you go into bat, you're so incredibly nervous and uptight and adrenaline going through your body, so you're almost shaking, and it's only when that wicket falls and you work your way down the steps that you start to think about the job in hand and what each bowler's trying to do, that you start to calm down and get into into game mode. I remember being out there and Garen Jones took on an option to go over mid-off and got caught, which was his option. It was fine. And then Hoggy trotted out with his bushy hair under his big, blonde hair under his helmet.
Nothing wrong with that.
He said something like, "What's going on, lad?" Really coyly. And I said, "Well," this bloke this end's turning it square, and the other bloke's bowling 95-mile-an-hour induckers. So good luck. And I just walked off up the other end. But somehow we got through it. Hoggy hit a 4, which I'd never ever seen before, and I think we were both a bit stunned. And yeah, I mean, I played terribly against Warren throughout and before that series. I think whenever I faced him, he just had me on toast, as I think he'd say. But yeah, we managed to just eke away the runs, and actually the clips from mid wicket, the 2 to win the game, probably timed as well as any ball I've ever faced of Shane Warne. But great moment. I mean, what I remember most actually is again almost that you win that moment, everything opens up and you can see the crowd, and then I just wanted to get up to the balcony because you could see the team going mad, gone 2-1 up in the Ashes. And I remember Steve Harmison basically mugging me as I got through the door, ended up on the floor with him on top of me, which is quite a big lump, Harmy. He wasn't as big as he is now, but he was quite a big lump still then. So yeah, great memories.
Fantastic. Now, thanks to everyone for asking the questions. If you've got any more questions, make sure to post them on the stream now, and I'll try and get them in. But we're going to ask 2 or 3 more questions, and then we'll let you get back to your rum and coke. But a question that has been put on the live stream is: have Amazon approached you for the next season of the Test documentary series? And do you think the current squad and management would be open to having something like that in the dressing room?
We haven't been approached as far as I know. We've had other things to worry about at the moment.
A bit busy.
It's a tricky one because, I haven't watched all of the Australian one. I found it really interesting. I mean, I love those documentaries anyway.
Yeah.
I think they're brilliant. I love watching the American football ones. And
yeah, they're fab.
It's just great TV. But in some ways, it bears all, and it humanises people and shows weaknesses and cracks, and as well as some of the strengths, yes. But so it was interesting watching the Aussies from that angle. I think it's always easy to say yes in hindsight because if you had it in the dressing room and you'd gone through that World Cup campaign and you'd won it, and then you had that historical record and all those moments, it's been brilliant.
Yeah.
But cricketers are a strange lot, and I think all of us we're a bit superstitious about stuff like that at the time. So, and I do think this England team, I think they've got something special going. I think the culture bit around them at the moment, they've got some really good blokes in that dressing room, and they're really well led, by Owen Morgan and Joe Root, and I think there's something about keeping that bit. It's what everyone wants to see, what goes on in the bubble, but I think there's something nice about keeping that special.
Fantastic answer there. Now, we wanted to ask you about the current ODI and World Cup team. You've been in the dressing room in 2005 with an amazing team that had some great characters in there, and there seems to be a similar thing going on now with the current teams. Do you see similarities going on with the two sides?
Yeah, I mean, we're very similar in many ways, very different in many ways. In that, this group far more professional in many ways than we were. Far fitter group of people. The demands on them are far higher. The pressure on them is far higher because everywhere they go, everyone knows who they are. That wasn't really the case for us before 2005. I think we were a good team. We had some really, really good cricketers. But in comparison, we were a bit like, and I don't mean this in a negative way, we're a bit like, club side, group of lads, love playing cricket together. We play bloody hard, good at what we do. But, we had a chance to have a bit of a laugh in there as well. But I think we get on. And I think that's what when you retire, you miss the most is And I see that in this team is that camaraderie, the bond that develops over time, over years, over the amount of cricket you play with each other and the tough times you go through as well as the good times. And you can really see that in this group. And again, I love that stuff. That stuff's really what makes it special. And that's, I've got my diary here with that's what that's all about, is playing for those Lions and playing for your mates.
Where's your cap? Have you got that in a cabinet somewhere, or is that in a box?
I haven't actually. It's in a box somewhere, and I have been meaning to get them up because we got given the ceremonial ones as well. And so I got a ceremonial one from Warwickshire last year. We did that. We presented caps to all those that wanted to come to a dinner and that around. England one. I got a coaching one as well. So I must do that. But I have got some cricket memorabilia around, not a huge amount, and I've even got. You wouldn't believe this, but I think the MBE is. I think it's in a box just up in the lift, in the loft somewhere. So I found it in the garage. I was looking through some boxes in the garage, and it was in there. So I really should take better care of some of this stuff, I reckon.
Don't get it stuck in the lift, eh? No.
I think it's more than anything, isn't it? It's the, they're nice, the things.
Yeah.
But actually, it's those moments.
Absolutely.
That you share as a team, as you guys do when you're on tour.
Well,
they're the things we're missing at the moment, aren't they? Those intimate moments you have when you have a laugh and you have a drink.
Exactly right.
And, they're the special things.
We've been lucky enough to be there at obviously the World Cup final, which was incredible at Lords, one of the first times we've been there, but also the Ashes with Ben doing what he did, and then latterly the Newlands Test as well. We've over the past course of 2 years, we've had some incredible moments in the stands as well as on the pitch, so we can share those with you all, which is the great thing about cricket, really. Now, the last question I'm going to ask is, Simon Edmonds has asked you, who would you pick, Warne or Murali? You can only have
Warne every time. I love Murali, and he's a great man, always smiling, always happy.
Fantastic.
And a fantastic bowler, but I've always seen Warne as probably the best bowler who's ever played the game.
Yeah.
To have the effect that he had on the game, both as just a bowler but a personality.
Yeah.
To have the longevity he did doing what he does as a leg spinner. Terrible to play against both of them. When you're an England spinner and you're playing against those two. You're up against it, but in some ways it's fun as well, and they're great memories. But certainly Warne, yeah.
Fabulous answer. Now we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you everyone for asking the questions, and thank you so much to people that have submitted and watched all the shows before. But my final message to you, Ash, is: have you got a message for the Barmy Army fans that are at home?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, stay safe. Look after yourselves, take care, and believe us, we're trying to get cricket back on the road as quick as we can, even if at first it may be behind closed doors, but hopefully give you something to watch. And then let's all hope in the very near future this becomes a distant memory and we're all celebrating somewhere with an England victory.
Absolutely, fingers crossed. Thanks for doing that for the Barmy Army, Ash, and stay safe, everyone. I'm going to end the broadcast now.
Take care.